Hello! Welcome to Please and Take It With You.
I'm Bailey Maxwell.
And I'm Caitlin Martell, and today we are going to be talking about one of my very favorite movies, the 1997 animated classic, Cats Don't Dance.
Yes! So this one I actually hadn't seen until Q 2 hours ago,
Which
and
is
I watched it for the first time.
Shocking that I've made it through this many years of friendship with you and have not
I don't want
put
to say
this upon you.
I don't want to say I'm disappointed, but
I think what it was we must have, because there's no way you've known me for this long and you've not heard me gush about this movie.
I'm guessing we've talked about it, and I just never actually sat down and watched it.
We never actually watched it, and I just assumed maybe we had.
Because I didn't realize David Kirshner, who was a producer, he wrote the story too, right?
There were a lot of people who worked on the writing.
But he was it's a Kirshner film, and he
had a heavy hand in it.
Yes, and he's done so many other projects that I know and absolutely love, like Rose Petals Place, which I don't know if anyone else...
Nobody knows.
No one knows what that is. But that was a big one. He's done a lot. American Tail. But even then he has some weird projects like Child's Play.
Yeah,
and
he's got a dark streak.
He does. So I love it. Oh, and Page Master.
The Page Master.
Was one, and I love the
Which
Page
was
Master.
the same animation studio.
Yes. Which makes sense.
Yeah.
There's a lot of similar. And it came out right before, Page Master came out right before Cats Don't Dance. So tell us a little bit about it.
Okay, I'm going to start with the cast because we've got some really great people in this cast, and I've got a brief little plot summary for those of you who are not familiar with it. Please go watch it because it's amazing.
Worth it.
We've got our cast. It was directed by Mark Dindal with music and lyrics by Randy Newman. Danny is voiced by Scott Bakula. Sawyer is voiced by Jasmine Guy with vocal talents by Natalie Cole. Darla Dimple, voiced by Ashley Peldon, and singing voice was Lindsay Ridgway. Tilly by our girl Kathy Najimy.
Yes!
Woolly Mammoth, voiced by John Rhys Davies. Gimli, for my Lord of the Rings fans. Francis and Cranston were voiced by Betty Lou Gerson and Hal Holbrook, the late great Hal. T.W. Turtle was voiced by Don Knotts with singing voice by Rick Logan. Pudge the Penguin, voiced by Matthew Harried, and Max, voiced by our director, Mark Dindal.
So many big names in there. Don Knotts, who of course was from the Andy Griffith Show. Kathy Najimy, who's from Hocus Pocus. She plays Mary.
So many theater credits.
So many good
Sister Act.
Yes.
Was another one that she did.
So good. Natalie Cole, who of course is Nat King Cole's daughter. Beautiful, beautiful voice.
Scott Bakula of Quantum Leap fame, and for my extra nerds and my husband, Chuck.
Yeah.
The TV show Chuck, he plays Chuck's father. So yeah, we've got a big cast.
And with Randy Newman doing music, who of course did the
fresh
music
off
for,
of Toy Story.
Yeah, did all the Toy Story music and has done several projects for Disney and Pixar. He really knocked it out of the park on this one. I think the music is so central to the story. It's absolutely amazing.
Well, and we'll get to this a little bit later, but yeah, the music is so central, and it's so different from the stuff he does for Toy Story, which is very different.
I wouldn't have recognized. I wouldn't have been like, oh, this is.
I think he got a lot of freedom with this one because it wasn't underscored. Because Toy Story is Pixar. Pixar notoriously does not sync. So I think he did more background music and you know, our "You Got a Friend in Me," of course, is his big one. But I think he got a lot more playtime with this one because the characters are actually singing these songs. So
it's not him going, "You got a
right.
friend in me."
So he got to play a little bit more, but the music is so important to this movie, as well as the dancing. It's called Cats Don't Dance.
Yes.
They do dance.
And the choreographer,
Gene Kelly.
Gene Kelly.
Our old pal, Gene Kelly, was actually a choreography consultant. And so, you know what, let's double back. I'm going to do a summary and then we'll talk about Gene.
Yes.
So, Danny the Song and Dance Cat is a small-town cat with big talent who moves to Hollywood with dreams of singing and dancing his way into becoming a big-time movie star. When he arrives, he lucks into finding himself an agent and landing a role in a major Darla Dimple film featuring animals. Along the way, he meets Sawyer, Pudge, Tilly, TW, Francis, and Cranston, and Wooly. Danny finds out the hard way that animals do not get to be stars in Hollywood, no matter how talented. But, ever the optimist, he sets out to change the narrative and remind his new friends of their talent and the big dreams they once had.
We love an underdog story.
We love it. And Danny is so delightful as a character.
He has that optimism, you know. He comes in with like, it's so cute. He has this little checklist that's like, get an agent.
Monday, get an agent. Tuesday, get a major film. Yeah. Wednesday, attend a premiere. Like, it's Monday through Friday. Like, he's going to be a star by Friday.
He has the unrealistic list that we all have. If you're in theater or film, it's like, well, and then I'll move to New York and be on Broadway.
The next day.
It's that list, which I thought was so clever. And then quickly, kind of gets the beat down a little bit, but stays so optimistic. I do love that he is ever the idea guy, and that even in the lowest moments, he's like, I know how to turn this around.
You know, and I'm just doing what I love, and it never factors in that he can't do it.
Right.
You know, and so the other big thing about this movie is that it is such a love letter to the Golden Age movies.
Oh yeah, wow.
So many references and little cameos, sort of.
We see Mae West in the opening number. You see
Jimmy Durante. They're all caricatured celebrities in his very first number arriving in Hollywood. So we've got Jimmy Durante, Bette Davis, Laurel and Hardy, Mae West, Clark Gable, and by de facto, because it's a Gone with the Wind billboard.
Oh yeah.
So we get Vivian Leigh as well. And then later in the film, we get Cary Grant, we get W.C. Fields, and Joan Crawford. So, so many little wink and nods. So there are tons of references throughout this film. So there are poster parodies at the end of the movie during the credits,
which was so cute.
It's so cute.
It was really cute. It spans from like Singing in the Rain to Twister, and it's like all the animals on the covers.
Right, they're all the stars because they finally get noticed. But all of the movies are from Warner Brothers, New Line Cinema, or Turner Entertainment. The filmmakers originally thought of doing parodies of other famous films like Sound of Music and Star Wars: A New Hope. But then they would have to pay licensing fees, so they said no.
We're out of our budget. I did love what Mark Dindal says in an interview. He said he likes to think that, I like to think that we've kind of tipped our hats to the best of both worlds with Cats Don't Dance. It's an homage to the past. An homage. I can read. An homage to the past, but created with the talents of the present and the technology of the future. And the message, giving everyone a chance to be his or her best by pursuing what they truly love, is timeless. And it really is. Because I think everyone has that sort of struggle when you're new to something and you think that this experience is going to be so easy breezy and vanilla
and magical.
And you're kind of hit with people who seem like they're helping, but they aren't really helping, and kind of having to create your own opportunities. And I love that message for the story. It was really beautiful.
No, and it really does have that feel. So getting back to Gene, the original production, they originally partnered with Michael Jackson. To do.
Oh, yeah, I did read that. Yeah,
so they originally partnered with Michael Jackson to do the choreography. I believe he was set to star in it, so we would have had a very different movie. And because of scheduling conflicts, he had to drop out, and so they turned to Gene to, do some consulting on the choreography aspect of it, and sort of lend his knowledge of that era, because
he was in it.
That was his era. He was there, and it's remarkable because this movie came out in 1997. Gene passed away in 1996, so this was the very end of his life.
Last project.
It was his last project. And so it's lovely because read, interviews from the people who worked on it and Mark Dindal, and he did all of his consulting and all of his, choreographing from a chair. And I'm like, that is, and it's beautiful because,
wow.
and I was talking about this with someone the other day. The remarkable thing about this movie is called Cats Don't Dance, but the dancing is a major part of the movie, and something that I didn't ever put two and two together, you really don't see very much of. You see a lot of like stepping around or skipping, or you get the Disney montages of getting stronger or running through a forest or a field.
Yes.
But there's very little actual choreography in Disney dance sequences.
Or they'll like copy and paste
the same
movement like they did with Snow White and
Right.
Maid Marian and Robin Hood. It's like she's swishing her skirt and like skipping around.
Mm-hmm. But the remarkable thing about this, and something that I've noticed I love a lot in other animated movies that are non-Disney, is there is legitimate choreography that dancers could watch, replicate, and it would not look weird.
Love that.
They are literally doing
Actual
actual
dance
dancing.
Mm-hmm.
There are actual tap steps that Danny does. There is actual, like, Sawyer at one point is doing like a pirouette and does like a passe into something else. And like, you could replicate
legitimate
it.
choreography.
And that's what was so interesting to me, is that they put the effort into animating actual choreography and not just kind of like, well, they're moving and people who don't dance won't know.
Right.
Because they don't.
Good. No, they're like, they're jiggling and we love it.
Right. And so that was something that I was like, I love that. And that's something that is very different about this movie.
One of my favorite parts is when he's cast in this film about the Ark, essentially, that Darla Dimple is the star of. She plays the Archangel.
And Darla Dimple is a very clear spoof of Shirley Temple.
Right.
And she gets her name from Darla Hood, who was of Our Gang and Little Rascals fame.
Oh, cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is who she's modeled to be after, but it's a very clear, like, Shirley Temple spoof.
But like if Shirley Temple were Satan
Were
reincarnate.
evil.
And so they go to be in this movie as extras to play the animals on the Ark. And he tries to,
Jazz
put
it
his
up.
own musical stylings on it. She throws a huge tantrum.
Massive.
And he, obviously is discouraged by this whole shebang, then how it goes down and plays out. And so this is afterwards, they're sort of in an alleyway and all depressed. And he's like, no.
Well, I guess this is going to set me back a day.
Yeah. and he meets Wooly, right? And he has this idea of like, if we show them what we can do, then they'll see that how talented we all are, how talented animals are, and what we can contribute. And sort of creates this musical experience in an alleyway, and I love that they sort of like brighten in color as they join.
They join
the fantasy.
Their joy sort of sparks with a visible change in the animation color.
And I love that. It's very cute, very fun. And we see Sawyer, his love interest cat, who ends up, he ends up becoming close friends with by the end. We see her sort of light coming and going as she wants.
They really play with that.
Right, she wants to be a part of it, but it kind of is
feels that hope bubbling up, and then it's like, no. And she fades back to like dull.
And I thought that was such a great way to symbolically show the
light.
The spark, the light in people. And how that comes and goes. I thought that was
and how
really
doing
great.
what they love brings more color to their lives. And, that was something, so I think we should talk about how criminally under-publicized this movie was.
I can't believe this wasn't a bigger deal.
I got retroactively angry doing some of the research for this because it's 1997. I was far too young to have really contributed to any success.
We weren't like researching films being like, this looks absolutely delightful, Mother. Can we go to the cinema?
I would love to go.
Right.
So I was too young to have done anything about this or known anything about it. This is one of those movies that magically appeared in my life. I don't know where it came from. I don't know who gave it to me. It may have been a gift. My mom may have brought it home from the store.
Magical relic.
I don't know, but I've had it since roughly when it came out. Some VHS someone gave me. Magical. I don't know. But I got so angry reading about how, because it was done by Turner Animation, and Turner Animation sort of changed hands a lot during the production. And it kind of made it rocky. At one point, I think they tried to change it to like a 1950s rock and roll thing.
No.
And so luckily, it sort of made it through without too much executive, like, hands in the pie.
Yeah.
But by the end of it, it had been sold to Warner Brothers. And they just didn't care about it. So literally, we're in 1997. This is like peak Disney Renaissance era. You know, at that point, if you wanted to promote an animated movie, you needed to be like shoving merchandise in front of children.
Yeah.
Like, you needed to have like deals with Burger King and McDonald's and
toys,
like toys at every stop and see it in, you know, stores. And they didn't do it. They just didn't care. So literally, except for one little tie-in with Subway, who apparently is like the savior of every show that is not doing well, because they actually spotted Chuck, the show, for like 3 seasons.
Wow.
Yeah, they get real. Wow. They have overt references and nods to Subway in the show because it kept them alive. Wow. So shout out to Subway for saving the underdog.
Come on, Subway. Come through.
But literally, except for this one little deal with Subway, nothing.
No merchandising.
Nothing. And it's
back in 1997, I don't think Subway was...
No, it wasn't the thing it became.
It hadn't exploded yet.
No, and so it just really sucks.
They dropped the ball, man. Because this has some bops, let me tell you. They have this incredible, I mean, that number where they all sort of come to life.
I Got Rhythm number.
I Got Rhythm. And then she, Darla Dimple, the villainess of the movie, has this
big
amazing
jazz number.
This
big
jazz
and loud.
With a beautiful villainous reprise. And I love, and then the finale.
The finale, which I will go on record to say this is one of the best, if not the best, animated finales of an animated movie. It is so good. The song,
it's a bop.
You're gonna be bopping, and it's so good. It tells so much. It's so good.
It's very entertaining. This is such a great kids movie for kids, but it's also so enjoyable for adults because it does have all of those references and stuff.
It has all those references
that I think would go over kids' heads in general, but for the grown-ups, it's a lot of fun.
And shockingly, which it was actually praised for this. It actually won a lot of awards. It was the first non-Disney animated movie to win an Annie Award.
Love that.
It got incredible reviews from critics before it came out, and it was praised for its witty writing, its color, like the colorful sequences, and surprisingly heavy allegory that was handled so seamlessly that it almost didn't even feel like it was happening. You know, so it was basically the Zootopia before Zootopia.
Right.
It really is.
Yeah.
You know, because that's kind of the point, is that these poor animals are very talented and you know, arguably more talented than many of the humans in Hollywood. And they're not given the time of day because they're just typecast to be what they are.
Right.
What they look like.
Because they're considered less than. And wow, what a story. It really, they went really hard on this film for them to then not promote it in the way that it, I think, could have been promoted.
Yeah, and it was just like WB, they like saw that it wasn't their normal like Bugs Bunny and Roadrunner characters, and it wasn't Disney, so they didn't care. They were like, well, meh.
I mean, do you think the part of it was like at the time they weren't even trying to compete with Disney on that level, you know?
Maybe, but this movie could.
Or that they had other projects that
I guess
maybe overshadowed it. But I think about if Michael Jackson had been a part of that.
Maybe it would have done differently.
Wow, that would be a different vibe, but it probably would have been incredible.
I feel like not even, because it does have so many major names involved with it, and people who were big name at the time. Like Randy Newman that Toy Story was in 1995.
So he was.
He is big.
Deal. This should have been a bigger deal.
It should have been, and then it doesn't even make back 10% of its budget in opening weekend. And I read a heartbreaking quote from David Kirshner about how he was just devastated by how it did because it had tested so well and the reviews had been so good. And then the LA Times reports that in Pasadena at the first matinee, 15 people.
Whoa!
15 people, one of which was a family of 5.
Oh my God.
And I was like, that is heartbreaking because this movie is so stinking good.
I'm seeing what other children's films came out in 1997.
I think that was Hercules time.
Okay, so yeah, Hercules, The Borrowers, Cinderella, Anastasia, Flubber.
I mean, George of the Jungle, there was a lot going on, but it really stands its own up in there.
It does.
So it really was criminally underpromoted, and the ball was seriously dropped by Warner Brothers. But it's a beautiful movie, and I'll loop back to some of the other little nods.
Yes,
because they're fun.
We
got
so
fun little nods. So when Danny is when he gets his script, we can see that the film technically takes place in April 1939. Which we get to see cute little nods and Easter eggs here and there for both Gone with the Wind and The Wizard of Oz, which both came out that same year. So there were a lot of actors who were considered to voice a lot of these characters. I'm going to read a few of them because some of them I was like, interesting. Some of them I'm like, okay, we get a similar movie. There's a similar tie-in, and then there's some that you're like, interesting. So for Danny, we had actors who were considered Matthew Broderick, John Travolta, Gene Wilder, Brendan Fraser, Robin Williams, Martin Short, Regis Philbin.
What? A young, spry.
Some of those I'm like, I hear it. I can hear it. It's very cute. I got it. And then I got to Regis, and I was like, a very different movie we have here.
Yeah, I'm glad he was busy.
For Sawyer, we had Renee Zellweger, Jodie Foster, Jenny McCarthy, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Minnie Driver, and Kelly Preston.
Oh wow!
So I assume like maybe John Travolta and Kelly Preston kind of went together. That strikes true to me.
I could see that.
Bette Midler and Whoopi Goldberg were both considered for Tilly. Both good choices.
Both great choices, but Kathy does it so well. She does so great.
She's so delightful. Betty White, Molly Shannon, and Reba McEntire were considered for Frances.
No way.
And I'm like, again, all very different choices, none of which are wrong.
No.
Bill Murray and Kurt Russell were considered for Wooly. And Christopher Walken was considered for Cranston.
Okay, cute.
And I'm like, none of those are super wrong.
They were really on the right track with this. They did good.
Yeah, so this was also one of the few animated films that voice artist Frank Welker appeared in, where he not only provided animal voices, but also additionally voiced a character. So Frank Welker, I was doing a little bit of searching through his credits. My God.
So many.
The man has voiced so much.
If you've heard an animal sound
in an animated movie or a video game, he probably did it. He voiced Abu. He voiced every horse, as far as I'm concerned. He voiced Philippe in Beauty and the Beast.
The tiger from Tarzan.
Sabor from Tarzan. But then he's also done voice credits like Horror in The Page Master,
which is my absolute favorite.
Which I
love that. I love that movie, but I love him specifically in that movie. I quote him all the time.
I mean, he's truly got an incredible voice acting resume.
What does he do in the morning? How do you even prep? Is he just practicing this while he's in the shower? I mean, the sounds that comes out of him.
Yeah, I'm so impressed by artists who can make very convincing animal sounds. I saw on that he did lion roars for The Lion King, and I'm like, I'm sorry, you did what now?
How do you know that you can do that?
You just stand in your bathroom and you do it.
how do you get it right, you know?
You listen to it and you just do it. Like, he's just
magician.
constantly making noises with his voice, and that's incredible to me.
A magician.
Yeah. So, other little nods to the golden age of Hollywood. We've got a character named L.B. Mammoth. So, it's Mammoth Studios. He is a very clear parody of Louis B. Mayer, who was the head of MGM from 1924 to 1951. And then Darla's butler Max is a reference in both appearance and name to the sinister character Max von Mayerling from Sunset Boulevard.
Oh my god!
I mean, a very clear...
I didn't even realize that, but now it makes so much sense. Mm-hmm. I also love the visual, sort of effect that they have with him. That Max, the butler of,
is massive.
So massive. He's like 3 stories tall. Mm-hmm. He's this huge guy. And then Darla Dimple is like this big compared to him. I love that sight gag for them.
Oh, yeah.
So brilliantly
done. And I'm going to come back to sight gags. But, so Max, the voice, is Mark Dindal, who is the director. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I found it very interesting. I was like, that's interesting that he voiced a character. Mm-hmm. And it turns out that because it had, gone through so much turmoil during production, they ran out of money towards the end and weren't able to hire a professional voice actor. So his temp track remained in the movie. So everything Max says was the director, Mark Dindal, and it was only supposed to be a temp track. And I would have never known that because it seems very intentional.
It does. I mean, it's so perfect. And maybe the sort of non-effort that went into it made it what it was.
But I just thought that was very interesting that was just a temp track.
I mean, it worked.
It worked. I would have never known that wasn't supposed to happen.
That kind of reminds me, like in Nightmare Before Christmas, that Jack,
Danny Elfman.
Thank you. I was like Danny Elfman. They just couldn't. He was like, they couldn't find anyone that sounded like what he wanted him to sound like. So he's like, well, I'll do it. Yeah, and it works so well. I think if it works, it works.
So back to sight gags. There's so much in this movie that is so Looney Tunes.
Yes.
It's very Looney Tunes, and I think that's what makes it so charming, is that it was put out in a time before we really got like Zootopia, where we've got these like anthropomorphic animals who walk and talk and act like people, but are animals still.
Humanoid.
Yeah, humanoid animals. So we've already had Lion King, but they talk and they act like animals, though.
Right.
So we've got humanistic animals, which you really weren't seeing except for on like Saturday morning cartoons and seeing, Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck. And so there's a lot of comedy that is tied in with that style of animation. And I really think it sells so well.
Yeah, the physical comedy is on point
and holds up. It's very funny.
It is. It's really good.
I want to talk about Mark Dindal real quick. He was an effects, like an animation effects guy for Disney. Let me get the right title. Mark
Dindal.
Mark Dindal was an effects animator who had worked. He worked on a number of productions with Disney, including like The Little Mermaid and Mickey's Christmas Carol.
Oh, and Rescuers Down Under.
Which is my favorite of the Rescuers.
It is. It's so the good. Best one. It's the best because of Joanna.
Joanna is my
the lizard.
She is me. But so he's working at Disney as this effects animator. He had been eager to start directing more, but I think he was only like 28 at the time.
Oh wow.
So a baby.
Yeah.
He's very young to be directing and then David Kirshner gives him this sort of like lifeline of like, you want to direct this movie? And so he does this amazing job with it, and it's not his fault that it did not get the acclaim that it deserves at the time.
Truly.
But he then went on to direct Emperor's New Groove with Disney. So I can rest assured that my brain has always had great taste in terms of animated movies because these are my favorites.
I mean, Dindal was clearly speaking to us from Mermaid to Rescuers Down Under.
It's maybe I've always had a dry wit. Maybe that's why I like these movies because this is very like witty comedy.
It is very quick. Oh, also so cute. The little Dan is that the main cat? Danny, the main cat. Why am I can't? Danny's, no Danny's today. I can't remember them. But he has like a little penguin friend,
Pudge,
and little Pudge. He's so cute. And when I guess the kid that played the voice wasn't a voice actor. The creators were sort of having lunch somewhere, and this little kid came up and like asked them a question about like directions or something like that, and they were like, "Oh my God, that is Pudge!" And so then they like chased after him and were like, "Have you ever done voice acting? Please come play this role." And so this was his film debut as a little Pudge, and he was so cute.
There were a lot of film debuts and like voice actor debuts. Like this was Hal Holbrook's first sort of jaunt into the voice acting. He then went on to do Amphitryon in Hercules, which is Hercules' father.
Love that.
Adopted father. And he was Mayday in one of the Planes movies, which I've never seen, but like cute. Cute as a button.
So this one is I think a hidden gem. So if you have kids or you just like animated movies like I do, give it a watch and a listen because it is
joyful,
an absolute joy to behold. So
we love it. Please and
take it with you. Thanks for joining us. Goodbye. We'll see you next time. Bye.